30 Years a Watchtower Slave, Chapter 7, entitled Sifting. The first subheading is entitled Conform or Else. The author mentions that when he would occasionally return to Berlin to his hometown congregation, he would see a stark contrast to what was happening to his Magdeburg congregation. He says that many respected elders were forced to resign under a cloud of unfaithfulness, while others were shoved into the background. He could see that there was a younger group of elders that was gaining ascendancy with the aid of the society, while the old-timers were being pushed out whenever they refused to adhere to time and book reporting and using the society's forms. So we see a conflict struggle, and at the same time an organizational change was being affected. Service directors were being appointed by the society that had been for some years now, and for some time they were just merely helpers to the presiding elder of the congregation. But soon the service director of the congregation gained the greater influence, and the society addressed all mail and things pertaining to the organization to the service director. The presiding elder who had previously not been appointed by the society, was pushed out totally in favor for the service director, who was appointed by the society. So by 1927, most elders had been pushed into a corner or out of the congregation entirely, and the service directors had taken over completely. He mentions that the author was very young and aggressive and mechanically loyal, and that's what the society was looking for. They were looking for people who would perform their tasks ruthlessly, without regard to anyone else. And so this is how they were trained, in moving and pushing forward out the older elders and bringing in these newer younger ones who are loyal to the society. So in this manner, they found out that it was best to break up congregations. And so he was assigned to a middle German town of a congregation of about 175 Bible students. And he was assigned because this group would not accept a service director, nor would they report time or carry out Watchtower Society instructions. Ooh, they were being a little bit rebellious. He was sent there when he was 21 years old, with the full backing of the Watchtower Society to make the congregation toe the line, with specific instructions to split them up if they would not come around. So he had to confront men who had gray hair and decades of service in the Witness Society, and he ended up having to override their objections. And so after one lecture, a discourse he gave, he said it took about an hour, he asked the audience, "Who's in favor of the Watchtower Society?" He received no for an answer. So he took it upon himself to brand this congregation as evil servants. And he asked all in favor of the Watchtower Society to rise and follow me out of the Kingdom Hall. 8 out of the 175 followed him, and they started a new congregation. So to back him up in this action, the society gave him full power to use other publishers from different congregations. And that's how they dismantled one congregation who was rebellious and started another who was loyal to the society. We kind of see that today. It doesn't have to do with loyalty to the society. Nowadays it's more like money. The society is breaking up congregations They are dismantling congregations so they could get their hands on money. So we kind of see this pattern even back then. The next subheading is entitled Sifting at Bethel. So if there was a sifting at the local level, there certainly needed to be sifting at Bethel. This step was accomplished in this German Bethel from 1924 to 1926. This weeding out here had a terrific turnover of personnel. So we see it happening in a congregation. Now let's see how it happened there at Bethel. And how did this happen? Well, first they printed a new set of rules for the Bethelites. Go figure. And even today, there is a set of rules that Bethelites have to abide by. They even have to sign a vow of poverty. Go figure. So many of the Bethelites there felt that these new rules were unwarranted, and naturally those who refused to sign this set of rules were kicked out. So the weeding process began, and so this sifting by the German Bethel had been completed by the end of 1926. And the next subheading is entitled Society Double Talk, and we definitely can see this today with the Jehovah's Witness lingo. It's definitely not the same language that's spoken by everyday people, and the society would use these loaded language, these class distinctions, the Mordecai-Naomi class versus, then they would pit them up against the Ruth Esther class. Now remember, the Mordecai-Naomi class were the old timers who coincidentally they were getting rid of, and the Ruth Esther class was the newer, younger ones that came in at the last second. Of course, these were the ones that were absolutely loyal to the society, and they would use this kind of double speak to brand the older ones as the evil slave class, and they would kind of pit them at war against each other. The next subheading is entitled Stooges for Brooklyn. The author mentions that they were in Germany actually stooges for Brooklyn. They were kind of like the test pattern. Every detail of what worked and what didn't work was tested and tried there by the Germans and was reported back to Brooklyn. They were filed away and eventually used in the future in the United States. He mentions that larger congregations proved to be the most troublous, since the elders were well trained and strong Christians. So what did they do? They broke up these congregations into smaller ones. He mentioned that there was a congregation of 175 that would not submit to the rules of the society of reporting time and using their books and so on and so forth. So what did they do? They broke them up. They even dismantled that congregation. That's what they did. And so they would break up larger congregations into smaller ones that were more easier to manage. And so really what happened in Germany served as a template to what would happen in the United States. And this will bring an end to this chapter. Stay tuned for the next. Thank you for taking time to watch and listen to this presentation. Post your comments, like and share this video, subscribe to my channel, and stay tuned for the next chapter.